Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy. I wanted to take this moment to share with you a little bit about my own experience with channeling and the idea of channeling. When we begin opening contact with our multidimensional selves, and there's so many things that we can connect to in so many different ways, whether it's asking questions and receiving answers, getting it in automatic writing, um, and most of the time for me, the way I often experience channeling is um, it just all of a sudden, I'm when I'm in the least resistance, most of the time I'm either in the water or I'm outside, and even right now it's very hot and humid, so it's like I'm literally like saturated in water. And that's just a small part of it, because that for me, that, and I think a lot of people receive a lot of information like in the shower, in the bathtub, that kind of idea. And how many humans want to be near bodies of water, that kind of idea. I think a lot of us are better, we're better receivers, in the water. We're better conductors of energy, and we know that water is a pretty good conductor of energy. And so anyway, as I'm sitting here, I get these messages, and it's like, okay, am I making this up? Well, yeah, but it's all in my consciousness. But it's like I'm meeting another person, individual, and then it's like, no, my mind, my logical mind goes, okay, what I'm hearing doesn't make sense to my logical mind, therefore it can't be happening, or it's not pertinent to share, or it's whatever, and I think so many of us are experiencing similar types of things that we don't really know what to do with it, or how to share it, or should I share it, or it's I'm just making it all up. And I even don't really understand completely the mechanics, none of us do, of how the multiverse works, and how we're every day, I think we're learning more and more about how are receivers. And so I'm sitting here having my coffee, and all of a sudden I'm like having, it's like a conversation with another, what I perceive as another being of something, and I hear, you know, hello, I'm, and I, okay, so let me just say too, I am also taking the information I'm receiving and putting into logical words, and the English is the only language that I speak other than light language, which is a different subject altogether in a sense, but it's not. Um, and so right away too, like even right now, I'm feeling light language, that wants to come from this particular space and place. And so I'm kind of talking to Dave, my husband Dave's sitting here beside me, and I'm talking to Dave about this, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense to me, and is it real? Um, and what was the question that you asked me?
What is the nature of the
What is the
information?
nature of the information? And I was like, wow, that's a really good question. um, and now I'm getting all goosebumpy. And so our disbelief in that, excuse me, the things that we're hearing sort of closes the connection. It's hard to explain, but as soon as that disbelief creeps in, because the way it was happening with me was, it was like I received the information, and all of a sudden then I'm asking a question. So it's like I'm having literally a conversation in my consciousness with this, I don't know. So I in this instance, I perceive it as a, um, I don't want to say a feminine energy, because I think that that's also a misconception. Um, Let me just say, it's a overall, it's a big loving energy. I guess that's the way I want to explain it first. And then, is it a person? Is it not? Is it a collective? I hear, hello, we are of the 12th dimension. And I'm like, and we are of the 12th dimension, and we are here to activate the idea of this 24 strand DNA. And I'm like, okay, what? And all of a sudden what comes to my mind is a broadcast that we heard recently from Cryon talking about this idea and talking about the 24 strands, if I'm saying it correctly. I'm looking at Dave for confirmation. Um, so, and I said, well, you know, why? Kind of thing. What is this actually about? And I've got goosebumps again. So she said, I said, well, do you have like a name kind of thing? And of course I hear, we do not have names, but we represent a frequency in which when you receive our frequency, you come up with the name. It's a vibrational way that we put the word, the frequency, the feeling that we're and then we put it into whatever word might feel comfortable for us to accept the communication, I guess, or I'm not even sure. This is why I hesitate to make these videos, because I don't have the answer except for what I'm experiencing. So this is what I hear. And I said, well, how does that work? I said, well, just how does that work? Well, you as a being have created this conversation by frequency of giving, to put it into words and language that we understand, giving permission to yourself through us, if you will, and to activate this within you, this idea, in a way that you, the me, you and your human experience can relate to. And so the name Mira comes, and I'm like, well, is that? And I'm getting goosebumps again. Ay, ay, ay. And it gets really weird and emotional. It's strange. And it's like it's not a I guess I could call it a being. And then I continue like asking questions like you know but it happens so fast because it's telepathically, like, what do you look like, what is it like where you're at, what is your experience, what is um and it's like you hear things like, well, we are not physical, we are just what you would consider a mist. But that's not really how we represent ourselves. It's a frequency, it's a vibration, and we can't even explain what we're experiencing in your language. Your minds can't really express in your language what it is that we're telling you. Part of that is part of, I think, why many of us receive light language, speaking in tongues, whatever we want to call it. I think it's a very similar experience. In my experience and listening to other people's experiences, and the energy feels very, very much the same. It's just words. It's the way we need to interpret something in order for us to accept another part of ourselves, another aspect of what it means to connect to other. And I will say I'm hearing also, okay, in order for us to connect to other dimensions, even that idea they're saying is somewhat not just a human experience, but it's a human definition. How do I explain these things? I don't know. What does that mean, that the dimensions are just a definition? I don't know.
So most people will agree in the idea of God, and that on Earth, a very high percentage of people on Earth believe in God, and believe in essence God is all that is.
And that's
and
that's what I believe is all that is all that is, and that is everything that God created.
So
God.
Most people also understand the idea that we are part of all that is, and by definition, being part of all that is,
yes,
means that's a part of all that is also contains all that is. So we're connecting to part of all that is.
Yes. And even if it even if it feels like the explanation is filtered through our own belief systems, because it is, um, it I s- I can't even put into words how I feel or what I'm thinking. I still feel like when I'm connecting to it, it's this presence of being that is um, it's almost as if I feel that there's nothing in within all that isn't loving. Um, and maybe that's part of the learning part of all of it, is to experience that idea that it's a way for me and my human experience to experience the idea of this bigger love. Because when I'm feeling that frequency and having this conversation, it's as if my heart can't even hold, and that doesn't even isn't even a real expression because our body is in our consciousness. But it feels like physically, my heart, my physical body can't hold all of that energy and love. It's so expansive, and yet they say it's still a way for us to connect to other aspects of all that is and be able to put a definition to it for us to have an experience, because we as humans can't really have we can't have a physical experience without creating a definition first. It's almost like we have to define it first before we can undefine it, if that makes sense. um, it's almost like we in our mind we have to define something only to then understand it doesn't need to be defined.
Well, you need something to expand upon.
Right.
So you have to start at some point and then expand upon it.
Yeah, exactly. And so as I further the conversation with this energy, this entity, it begins to just they said, like, what we are, what you would consider just color, like being in, it's just an energy. They're again, there aren't, I don't seem to have physical human words to express what it is that they're saying. Um, and which is really frustrating sometimes, it is. And
like a colored vapor.
right. And so then the very first thing that happened is I land on the vibration of Cryon and this idea of 24 strands of DNA and whatever that means to us as humans, and this activation, this idea of this year, and so many other pieces of the puzzle that I've been given by my guides from all over the dimensional planes, if that's what we want to call it. This idea of open contact and of, Bashar and that energy, the being, the opening the door, the first year opening, of open contact begins with opening contact to all things,
With yourself.
and with ourselves, to all things, and to understand we already are. It's not that you're doing something you didn't do before. We're not doing something we didn't do before. We're waking up, realizing we're already doing it. That's what kind of awakening is. And then there's so many other aspects of me about the Native American side of this and that physical side of it. The white buffalo, again, I'm getting chills. The idea of 2024, the symbols that are of the tribes, and the ceremony, the symbol that is used, the naming, again, the naming of them. All of these things have been swirling in my vortex, of messages, that are so often so obscure. I don't know how to share them. I don't know how to put them into words other than to say what I just said. And yet it's still my own meaning. it's still my own meaning. And the idea of the white buffalo idea, that has been with me for, I don't know, since maybe even my childhood, but that's a whole nother experience with.
So each of us is our own unique puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And in order to see bigger parts of the puzzle, we have to share our puzzle piece and the information as that puzzle piece that we receive with others who can connect the dots for us.
Yes.
And collectively make a bigger picture. So
It's
one of the
fun.
main reasons why we all want to share this, even though we might feel uncomfortable sharing it, is so we can see bigger pieces of the puzzle. So
Yes.
you get information that comes to you, whatever, and it might not even make any sense to you, but you share it
Sometimes
with
it
somebody else who now the puzzle pieces start to fit together and it starts making more sense, and that person shares it and that person shares it, and pretty soon you have a bigger picture of everything. Just like, you know, the idea of you live here and you're very familiar with the area you live in, and you share it with the person next door who's very familiar, and pretty soon you don't know what's in your neighbor's house until the neighbor shares it or invites you over. Then all of a sudden you get a bigger picture
Of your neighborhood. And that's
then
a really good
you're-
explanation. That is a really good explanation. And they're reminding me again too that because of the idea of I connected immediately to the vibration of service. What does Cryon always say? Magnetic service. It was as if the vibration was so similar to that it was like, and I ask myself this every morning: how may I be of service today? And the answer is always, of course, the same: follow your highest joy and excitement. And when I don't do these things and don't make these videos, I feel that, what do I want to call that? The vibrational dissonance, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but so then I know that I'm not following my highest joy and excitement because of some fear-based belief that I have about going on camera, saying these things, talking about these things, and yet the greater part of me understands it's just me. I mean, and yet that's confusing and irritating and maddening and loving and comforting all at the same time, because it's like, how could it only just be me? How could this all be just my consciousness? How is that possible? But yet I'm connecting to these other consciousnesses, but it's connecting to all these other aspects of the one consciousness that is that which we call God, all that is. The one is the all, and the all are the one. And when we're entertaining that concept more and more as it kind of trickles into our DNA, that's even just a metaphor too. Okay, even that concept, I'm getting goosebumps again. Even that concept they're saying is just a human concept. It is. All of it. The DNA part of it, all of it, it's just a human concept. It's a physical reality experience concept. Not just human, I'm being reminded. But and how extraordinary we are. It's like we lose sight of this every single day, how extraordinary we are for having this journey to share with all that is gets to experience this that it never got to experience before because of you and me and us, and having it. It's so big I can't put words into it. Dave's got a grin like up to his ears. So yes, this excites us. I'm all a goosebump. I wish I could say, oh, there's more esoteric information here.
So what is the nature
So what is the nature of the information?
The excitement of the connection and the sharing.
Yeah. I guess what is the nature of the information, for the receiver, that's really what it is. It's all about our own expansion. And by our own expansion, like Dave just said, we get to experience a bigger neighborhood that we never conceived of before. It's so beyond the idea of human and earth, and yet empowering in that, oh, but you created that. All of that. And it gets so big and so wide that I could just, because this is my highest joy, I could do that forever. It's like all I hear is, activate our the power we already have inside of us to, and all of it comes into play, the manifestation and the thoughts and all of it.
So I would ask, what is the nature of the separation we're creating between these different things? Because we're creating the separation.
We're creating the separation.
So why does there have to be a difference between connecting to some multidimensional being that exists simultaneously within even our reality, and going into an empty room with someone you never met before and sitting next to them and having to meet each other and asking
no
them,
different.
Where do you come from?
What's your day? Exactly. What is your day like? What do you eat? How do you sleep? Where do you live? What do you do all day? How do you work? Do you have money? What's your vibration of exchange? You would have exactly the same conversations. And that's what open contact is. It's having these conversations with, yeah. And even again, I'm hearing again, even multidimensionality, they're saying you're going to learn and discover what that means and how you are all labeling even that. And I find that as a human kind of disconcerting. I do. So there's my own belief systems playing ping pong in my own head, I guess, if you want to call it that. But it's like, wait a minute. What? You're telling me that all of that isn't right either, and that we still don't have it right, and the dimensionality and all the and it's almost like this. You will come to understand. That's what existence is. You will come to understand that you already know all of this, and that you're having an amazing, unique, very crucial, special engagement with all that is, and creating something that never existed before anywhere, for all that is, and again, that we can't even understand the levels of beings and mists and colors and whatever dimensions we want to call it. Experiencing this because of us is so extraordinary that we can't even comprehend the extraordinariness of it.
So,
I think that's the message.
unless you're a little older, as we're making up time to exist, you might not have ever experienced this. But in the old days, when we used to have radios with dials, you would tune in a station.
Yep.
And you would turn the dial, and eventually you would find a station that was coming in, a radio station.
I think that still happens.
Even a television. But in between,
there's nothing.
There's static.
Nothing.
But the static is something
it's
too.
Still something.
And sometimes late at night, when most of the radio stations went off the air, you would be searching for something to listen to, and sometimes you would just hear static. And maybe one particular frequency of static seemed a little more interesting than others. And that's essentially what we're doing as consciousness. We're tuning in to the thing that interests us the most. And
say hi, Dave. Okay.
Hi, Dave. So we're tuning into the thing that interests us the most, and every other consciousness that is also tuned into that frequency is having a party, and it's only up to us to decide if we want to join in on the party or not. And it's really just that simple.
It's just that simple. And it really is, as we're told, it's a belief that it's not simple. It's complex, but it's simple.
Well, it's only as complex as we want to make it.
Yes.
So as we create our own reality, we're creating the beliefs and definitions that create the complexity of it. But we do that so we could investigate in greater detail things that otherwise we would never be able to investigate in that way. So even like the idea of looking up into space, we didn't know that there were things millions of light years away. We theorized it, but as we investigated it more and more, we started naturally developing more and more telescopes on Earth and telescopes in space, so we could see more and more and more and more. And we're only creating those things because we're looking for them. Same thing with a microscope. We didn't know that there were,
Yep.
you know, there was microbiology and all that other stuff. But as we were more and more, as certain people were more and more excited about looking for those things, the nature of being excited about it defines the idea that you will find more and more and more. And then what do you want to do with it? How do you want to, explain it? How do you want to put the pieces together? And we know, even in science, the ideas and the postulations scientists have on why things are or what they are, they change over time.
Yes, they do. And I was just going to say that as you're speaking, I'm hearing again them explaining that idea that even the things that you're saying right now are things that we have conjured up ourselves in order for us to give ourselves permission to understand all that is better. We are the ones creating that very thing. It's very interesting how the paradox is that the very thing you said is what we're creating. The science behind it, like you said, our understanding changes, so the science changes, but it doesn't change the trueness of what already is.
And we do that type of activity with everything.
Everything.
We look at whatever it is that we look at. If we want to focus our attention on it, we're going to see more and more of that, and that's how you create your own reality. You want to look at things that we would normally designate as negative, like war and problems. We are only going to see more of that because we're asking the universe to show us more of those things, because we're, you might not say you're excited about it, but if you're focusing on it, you're excited about it. You're going to see more and more of those things. So part of the exercise is getting better at deciding what you want to focus on and how you want to focus on it. And collectively, the more people that are focusing on things more preferred and in a more preferred way, the reality reflects back things that match that.
And Dave and I experience it in if we want to call it the minutest ways, but in the littlest ways in our own day-to-day life, and the manifestations of all this, of everything, reminds us of that there is no big and little. It's just a belief.
And I'm very excited for more coffee to magically show up, perhaps even today.
Oh, well, that sounds very, very exciting. It does. Sometimes it's fun to do human things like, drink coffee and, I don't know, make videos. And I often ask Dave, even though I already know the answer, because I teach, the answer is everything you're guided to share, there's someone that needs to hear it. And to be reminded of that even the stuff that doesn't even make sense to us, doesn't make sense to me, even if I can't explain it, doesn't mean I shouldn't share it.
Well, even the idea of drinking coffee and enjoying coffee as a floating blob of color, you can't experience that physical experience in the same way. So sharing that, expressing it, doing it is greatly expanding the experience of others who can't,
Yes.
to give them a greater appreciation of all that is. In this case, coffee.
And you made me think of something that you and I watched about a couple who was traveling, and they traveled to, it was China, wasn't it? The tea. I had no idea the the intricacies of the villages and the tea, and it got me so excited that I was actually like maybe living it with them in that moment, and it got me so excited to go see these places and taste the tea and
the ceremony surrounding all of it.
Ceremony. That's what got me, was the sacred ceremony. And this is a daily practice. This is a conscious practice with them. It touched me in a way. So that, them traveling around the world and them sharing that video changed me. It changed me. So sharing is potentially changing the way somebody views all that is, and that's always expanding. It's always expanding to our consciousness.
You can't unknow what you know.
You can't unknow what you know, and that is.
And one of the laws is everything changes.
Everything changes. That is the last law. Everything changes except the first 4 laws. You exist. Everything's here and now. The one is the all. All is the one. What am I leaving out? And everything is here and now. Did I say that already?
No.
Okay. And
everything changes.
And I think I didn't say those in the right order, but and everything changes except those laws. Order. Well, there you go. There you go. And time. That was the other thing they said. When you were talking about light years, I just wanted to remember what they said. They said, even that, we're making it up. The idea of light years, we made up that idea in order to understand the universe better. We are going to understand soon even that.
Well, because there actually is no out there.
Exactly.
So there is no...
Even the idea of light years is a conception. So these are the things that I often don't share for whatever reason, but that's my own belief systems. And once I do it, and once I do it more, and I've been doing this for 9 years, and yet every day I still question.
As you create time.
As I create time. So
to exist.
With that said, thanks for listening. I hope that and I say thank you for listening, because I just say it's really about thank you for opening your heart and your consciousness to maybe something that you weren't even aware of before.
And if you're interested in hearing more of these kinds of things, including actually channeling of these things, let us know, because we could do this all day.
Seriously, this is what I love to do, and I often don't do a lot of channeling online for a variety of reasons. And so, but as
one of which is that we sometimes
we're busy.
have a belief that nobody's interested.
Well, that is true, and that's why. And I hate to say that, because I hate to admit that I say that, because I often say that to Dave even. Who's going to be interested in any of that information? But yet I realize all the information that I've received over through people sharing through YouTube and whatever social media, that I wouldn't be the expansive being that I am if it wasn't for all of you guys out there sharing. So I love you. Thank you. Mi leves masono shamia payana bayabimo sabaninka hiashote siba samariana kita maya atavesama se. You know, whether you feel like, you know, you're a starseed or an ET or non-human, human, physical, non-physical, whatever it is, you know, we're all in this together. So, yeah, come share, come hang, let us know, you know.
And we could have live hangouts.
Yeah, and we love doing live stuff, and
you gotta tell us
again, we just really haven't, and being busy with our own lives, and also, you know, I guess I have to remember too that everything is a reflection, and if I'm excited to do it and put it out there, that hey, if we create the space to hang out together, I believe it is. I believe that there will be others who wish to be a part of that vibration. So there you go.
Help us eliminate our own excuses as to why we don't do fun things that we're excited to do.
Okay, yep, because I'm not even going to try to make any excuses with any of that right now. So, no. I'll see you later, guys. Love you. Ngato bitsmea sa kinanda alas dumatea na kote opayana ke ahana. Open your heart, open your mind, open your throat, open your third eye, and expand. Bye.